Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Instant Replay, your favorite sports podcast. I'm your host, Zohaib Naqvi. So it's officially midnight. I've just finished putting together this episode. On this episode, we had Dr. Yasser Malik, who is the founder of Medisource Sports. Medisource Sports is located here in the GTA and was founded by Yasser about a year ago. And since then, he's been quickly expanding all their services. So they basically provide anything from nutrition to medical and athletic therapy services to athletes here in the GTA, to counseling, to player development, tons of things that Medisource provides to the athletes here in the GTA. And we had a great time chatting with Yasser about how he created his business about a year ago, what was his thought process in doing so. But we also got into chatting about the NBA and, Kawhi's injury that's recently taken place and just injuries in general, sports injuries, because, Yasser being a doctor and being specialized now in this sports world, he provides a pretty academic perspective on these type of things. So without further ado, enjoy the episode. Like always, Instant Replay, we're bringing it back.
Really good.
Like, they've done amazing dunks, and a lot of the dunks were like really good. Mm-hmm. Obviously there were some mixed dunks, but a majority of them, like, I was like super impressed by like Daniel Stretch, like what he was doing, jumping over Sadek.
Especially because he's not even that tall.
He's not that tall, but he gets up there.
Yeah,
that was shocking to me. He was probably the shortest out of all three of them.
You know what it is? He has huge hands.
That's probably it.
He just can palm the ball like it's nothing.
That's probably it.
So you really, when he was jumping, he was the one who jumped over Sadek on the chair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he doesn't really have to worry about controlling the ball because it's kind of just like there.
Yeah.
And he's just doing the jumping at that point.
And then so Sherman Sue walks around and he's like in the crowd. He's like, anyone want to help me with the dunk? I'm not raising my hand. I'm like, should I? I was with my wife, so I'm should I? And she's like, he will do it. And she just volunteered me. And I just got up there and I was like, okay, so what do you want me to do? He's like, just put your hand out like this. He like positioned my arm and did whatever, and then I know he missed the first attempt. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is because of me. No, it was just
the
like
second one though, man.
The second one,
crazy.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think you saw. I posted up on Instagram, and like a lot of people.
Yeah. I like your review better because it just shows me like doing good.
Yeah. I was trying to get like the reaction from
really
everyone,
good.
and people were like all acting different.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Funny, man. It kind of worked out because like you guys were talking about it the day before.
Yeah, we were talking about it right the day before, so it was perfect.
Yeah, it worked out perfectly.
Yeah. It was good. It was a good time. I really enjoyed that dunk contest. But yeah, so you were there representing Medisource.
Right.
Yeah. How'd that go?
It was awesome, man. Got to work with a lot of like elite level athletes, like guys from Team Canada came through.
Nice.
I know you just came for the dunk contest, but
I got to watch a game.
Yeah.
The talent level was like through the roof. To be quite honest.
You should have seen the finals, man. The finals had
Was it that team 786s?
It was 786.
Every year, Sadek was telling me 3 years in a row they've
won.
No,
sorry. No, you're right. 786 came to the finals. They lost though.
Oh.
Yeah. They lost to 244, 34.
Oh, he also told me about that team.
The two guys play international in Argentina. They're from Toronto though.
Two guys play international for Argentina?
Another guy played on the Humber College national championship team 2 years ago.
Stop it, man.
Right? And then on 786, they have a bunch of good players, obviously, but they had a guy from Team Canada.
What?
So, yeah, the competition level was nuts, but still, that team who won, they were just unstoppable. Like, guy was getting a rebound and coast-to-coast tomahawk jam from, like, 2 feet in front of the three-point line. Free throw line.
So the game that I was there at 3. I think they were running a little bit behind schedule because the dunk contest was supposed to start at 3. So I got there at 3, but the game that I watched, and that was like one was Positive Productions playing, and the other team, I don't know who it was, but the Positive Productions team with Mr. Koa and those guys that were playing were doing like off the backboard dunks in game.
Yeah. Well, are we recording right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sure. We can include. Well, I'll like probably what I'm gonna end up doing is this gonna be like an hour, and I'm gonna cut it down.
Okay.
Right?
So you cut it up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Totally.
All right. But anyways, Medisource. What we did there was we basically were working with all the athletes at the tournament.
Yeah.
providing them sideline first aid and athletic therapy type of services along the sidelines between their games, during timeouts.
Gotcha.
I think it was most effective between the games. A lot of them had multiple games in a day, so kind of a good recovery thing for them.
Nice. And so so I've obviously done my background in terms of you guys, like how when you guys started 2016 and stuff. But what was the reason for you starting Medisource?
So the reason I started it was because, as you know, and you yourself are not only a big sports fan, but you play a lot of sports too.
Totally.
And, I've been the same ever since I was growing up, and obviously I never had the opportunity to play, in a college environment or a high level environment. But I have played in local leagues and community centers and things like that. Obviously, like all of us have. And I realized that as you get older, your body starts to take a toll, especially if you're if you play at a high intensity. And so I wanted to start something up that kind of fuses my passions and my pastimes and my activities with my career.
Right.
And being from a healthcare background, I thought that would be a great idea to mix it in with basketball or with any other type of sport where I could provide that type of service to players. And at the same time be involved with sports. So It was kind of a cool initiative there.
That's very cool, man. Because for our listeners, Yasser here is an MD, so you're like a legitimate doctor. So you're a legitimate doctor that's actually like fusing the world of sports with basically healthcare. Right. And then you're providing that service to all these athletes in the Mississauga, Toronto, GTA community, to say that?
Yeah, so for now it's just Mississauga, but we've done certain events. We've covered certain events like tournaments, prospect combines out in Hamilton, and other parts of the Southern Ontario area. But yeah, for now it's primarily Mississauga, Toronto.
Nice, very cool, man. That's absolutely amazing. I always look up to people like yourself, Sadek, all these guys that I have as guests because you guys are inspiration to someone like me who's starting right now. So from my standpoint, this is like awesome listening to you, how you have progressed in 1 year. You're already at these tournaments. You're already providing sideline services. You're starting to meet all these, top high-level athletes and stuff. And, you actually have the credibility and background to actually support whatever you're trying to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. So initially, like I said, I don't know if we talked about it already, but the reason I started it was because I felt like people, amateur athletes like you and I, or even professional level athletes who played in leagues and tournaments around the community needed people to take care of them. When they're playing at a high level, whether it's a sprained ankle or a jammed finger or something more severe like a concussion, people need that type of treatment. It doesn't matter if you're playing in the NBA or if you're playing a high school basketball game.
Totally.
Right? It's something that needs to be paid attention to, and I think it's something that's not available for a lot of the amateur athletes in our community. So but when I started, the first day I was a little bit I guess you could say nervous because it was the first time I was working on the sidelines. So obviously I have experience working in clinics and hospitals and things like that. And in that setting it's a little bit different because it's a medical setting, so people are expecting a certain type of conversation or a certain type of environment.
Sure.
Whereas in the sidelines you're in a totally different zone, right? It's a
completely different atmosphere. The expectations are different. It's couldn't be further apart.
Right, exactly. So different. And so I was kind of thinking about that, and but then when things kind of started rolling, I guess that sports or athletic mentality of mine kicked in, where I'm like, no, it's game time, quote unquote, so I kind of just started doing what I was doing, and you just have to have confidence in what you're doing. If you do something, you have to have confidence, or if you want to do something, you have to have confidence that you want to do it, and that there might be hardships along the way. You might mess something up. You might do something that it wasn't necessarily the right thing to do, or you might come across some sort of hardship. But that's the only way you're gonna learn.
You said something to me that was super awesome just like 2 minutes ago when we hadn't clicked record at the time, but you said something like on day one when you had like the most minimal equipment, you like walked in. I want you to tell that story of where you walked in versus where you are now in terms of like all the equipment you got to go back and forth and between your cars. Tell that to our listeners, because that to me is super inspirational to be like, I'll let you tell the story, but it's super inspirational to me. That's gonna stick with me out of this entire podcast. That's what's gonna stick with me.
Well, what I was saying was basically when I first started, I was only working with one team, not one league, like with just one individual team.
Right.
And I kind of got lucky with that because I knew the guys on the team.
Yeah.
So they kind of let me work with them. And so I showed up to the game. I showed up to the gym with a couple of rolls of athletic tape that I had got from like Shoppers Drug Mart,
Right.
and a yoga mat that was on like clearance,
Right.
at like Sports Check or something. I was like, this is great. This is exactly what I need. And so that's what I came in with, and I used what I had. And as I went along, I realized more and more things that I needed, or more and more things that got demanded of, and I grew from there. And now I find myself making multiple trips to my car to get this or to get that, and I have like a whole station set up along the sidelines now. So I'm very thankful for that. But at the same time, it just shows that you don't necessarily have to have a lot to start something. You just have to have a good idea that you like doing, and you have to go and want to do it.
You guys just jump in. That's what we were talking about, and it's just like at the end of the day, it's like, like you said, you didn't know what would come out of this. You had minimal expectations or no expectations, like you put it.
Right.
And then now it's like to a point where you're enjoying what you're doing, and like, work to you is no longer work. It's almost like, you love basketball to a point where now, you're basically, your job is basically related to basketball.
Exactly. That's the best part about it. Like I thought that it would be a great way to fuse the two things that I like, which are healthcare and sports, or basketball more specifically. And so to bring those together and to be able to watch basketball or watch a sport on the sidelines while also kind of taking care of the players and putting my I guess educational background and skills to use, that's not really work to me. That sounds like a good time. You know what I mean? So I think anyone who wants to ever do something or has a great idea to do something shouldn't necessarily be afraid to do it. It's not like I came up across with this idea like in a lucky manner, or somebody told me and I took advantage of it, or I stumbled upon it. And I'm sure it's the same way for your podcast. You didn't start this up as a coincidence or something. It's something that you wanted to do and you went and did it. And I kind of feel the same way about what I've started, and I would highly encourage everyone out there to do the same thing. If you have a good idea that you want to start and you enjoy doing it, just go and do it. And if something comes of it, something comes of it.
I'm going to add some really inspirational music in the background right now. While you're saying all this, I'm going to add some nice inspirational music so that it's just going to go great. It's going to like really be motivational. No, that's I cannot agree with you anymore. I cannot put it any better than you've already put it.
Another one of the big things I was looking at when trying to start this idea up was the fact that, like I mentioned to you earlier, as you're getting older, your body starts to take a toll. You start to feel a little more sore,
You're telling me, dude.
So, all of us experience that. And to be able to continue doing that as you get older, you have to take care of your body. And so I wanted to be able to provide that service to people like you and I. And increase the length of time that we're able to play sports in our life.
That's awesome, man. No, I've had injuries in the past just as I've gotten older. I felt like I was like... So I used to play a lot of soccer, a lot of basketball, obviously when I was younger, and I felt like I could go at this pace forever, no matter what I ate, what I did. But like I'm telling you now, like in terms of getting older, I recently had a basketball injury where I hurt my groin area, stretched that too much, went to physio for that, was out for 6 months. That would never have happened when I was like 20, you know what I mean? So now like when your body just starts getting, like I'm 28 now, and as your body just keeps getting older and older, I'm really learning that you have to really proactively take care, stretch. I never used to stretch.
Absolutely not.
And now, like, everyone's saying stretching is the number one thing you can do before and after you start playing.
It's I remember when we were kids, and you probably remember this too, if somebody was stretching before playing, like, kind of got made fun of. Like,
totally, this guy's so old.
He's so old, man. Like, what are you doing? Why are you stretching? But now I find myself, like, Googling new stretches, and I'm like, oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, totally. No, that's the case with me and my buddies. We play on Sundays. We play basketball on Sundays, and like literally I get there like 15 minutes before everyone else is getting there, because I'm playing with a lot of these guys are either in university or in high school. So like I'm getting there early so I can stretch on my own time and warm up, because you got to warm up before you stretch. And I'm noticing that that's helping me stay like less sore afterwards, than if I didn't do that. I'm risking that injury afterwards.
Exactly, and like you said, the importance of that is to prevent injuries from happening. So we're not NBA players or high level athletes by any means, but obviously these are hobbies. These are things that we use to get away from work or whatever the stresses are in our life. It's sports for us, right? It's a sports for a lot of people. So being able to prevent injuries and taking care of your body so that you can continue enjoying that in your life is something that I see as really important.
Totally agree. So let me ask you this. So you've obviously seen a lot of sports injuries. What's a common injury? Not the most severe injury, but what's the most common injury that you've seen?
From my line of work, I think the most common injury that I've seen is definitely sprained ankles. I think everyone would probably agree with that one. All of us have sprained our ankles before.
Man.
So sprained ankles are a big one, and that's probably the thing I take care of most as well. Before the game, during the game, halftime, guys are always asking, "Hey, can you tape up my ankle for me?"
And what would you say is like the best way to? Can you prevent that? I don't even think you can prevent that. I feel like it just happens like in a game, and it's just bad luck sometimes.
Right. I mean, like for example, if you twist your ankle, landing on someone's foot, there's nothing really you can do to prevent that from happening, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of just everyone's responsibility to play in a safe type of way.
Right.
And be aware of your space. So there's no real way to prevent it, but there are ways to kind of minimize the length of injury or minimize the length of time that it takes for you to get better.
And reactively, what would you do if you do roll an ankle? Like, what's the best things you can do? Like, is it like, so what I would instinctively do from what I've heard from people is just tighten up my lace, right? Tighten it as much as possible, and then when I get home, I would ice it. Is that all you can do, or are there better things you can do? Like, what would you suggest?
Well, there's a number of things you can do, but the first initial steps that you mentioned are probably the best initial options for you, because what happens is when you sprain your ankle, just like any other joint in your body, if you sprain it or strain it, the first thing that's going to happen is there's going to be an inflammatory response, which will cause swelling.
Gotcha.
And that swelling will take a period of time to resolve. So if you can minimize that in the initial stages, would probably be your best bet. And like you said, tying up your shoelaces and then going home and icing it. Is probably the best initial thing to do.
And so I've learned this the wrong way, but obviously don't play on it afterwards is also probably a big one. Like I've learned this the hard way. I kept playing, so I had like a terrible ankle, and I kept playing, and then I couldn't play for the next like 2 months, 3 months, pretty much.
Right, I think we're all probably guilty of that. Just for the love of the game, we just keep on doing it.
Unfortunately, that's probably it, man.
Yeah, that's definitely it. But no, I mean, as much as the basketball person in me says, play till you drop, I guess. But
that Kobe mentality, right? Like that Mamba mentality.
Right, exactly. But my brain, I guess, would tell me that it's probably the best not to play on it.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Okay, so I asked you what the most common injury you see, and that definitely makes sense. I see that all the time, people rolling their ankle. What do you think is the most severe injury that you've seen?
The most severe injury I've seen since I've kind of started this company up has been a couple of guys diving for a ball.
Yeah.
It was a tight game, and it was really coming down to the wire, so every possession mattered. So and so the ball was loose. Two guys basically dived for it and butted heads, and both of them were just completely they didn't lose consciousness or anything. They were dazed and confused. One guy was like bleeding,
almost concussion like, pretty much.
Right. So it was kind of almost concussion like. That's the first thing that came to my mind. But immediately the first thing that that we had to take care of was the fact that one of them had like a 2-inch gash on his forehead, which was bleeding profusely. We had to take care of that. So that was kind of the initial thing we had to do, and then on top of that, we had to kind of worry about assessing them for any possible concussion type symptoms and things like that. So we ended up having to send one of them to the hospital.
What? Wow.
But he recovered pretty well. He was out for like 2 or 3 games.
Okay.
But then he was back for like the second half of the season. So.
Wow. And what league was this for?
This was for Mississauga Hoops. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and do you guys partner with them? Do you guys help them out in terms of every single game? Like, how often? What's that relationship like?
So basically, I started working with Mississauga Hoops kind of coincidentally, actually. It was last year, and there's a couple of guys who I knew who played on a team in that league. So I thought that would be a good place to start because I knew them. I played on a team with them before as well.
Nice.
So I said, hey, this is kind of what I'm starting up.
Very
How
cool.
about I work with your team? So once they allowed me to do that,
Yeah.
Mississauga Hoops, the rest of the teams and the players were like, hey, this is awesome. We want these guys for the rest of our games too.
That's
So,
amazing, man.
yeah, so Mississauga Hoops is a really competitive league, though. I'd really encourage everyone to check them out on social media, online and stuff. If you want to
Nice.
play basketball, if you're a high-level athlete, I definitely recommend
Nice.
joining that league for sure.
That's very cool, dude. I remember. So do you play in a league still now?
Yes, I
Yourself?
play in one
Okay.
league now. Yeah. I
So
used
is
to
your
play in
team
multiple,
like the
but-
most ultimately stretched, warmed up team every time you start?
You know what? I try to get my teammates to get on that.
Oh,
There's still
man.
some of them trying to hold on to
Oh,
that.
they're gonna regret it. They're gonna regret it, man.
Yeah, the ones who want to take care of their body definitely get that privilege. Yeah.
Okay, nice. That's very cool, man. So that's obviously Medisource, and we touched upon the ankle injury, and we know right now what's happening in the NBA in terms of ankle injuries. The most controversial story right now in the NBA is Zaza slipping his foot under. Firstly, before we even get into any sort of health and background of Kawhi, do you think it was a dirty play or not?
That's funny because I was actually gonna ask you the same thing.
I'll tell you my answer too. I'll tell you my
okay.
answer, but I'll let you go first.
All right, so this is something that I think all of us have probably heard all the analysts and guys talk about this the whole week. Did he do it on purpose? Did he not? And I've been thinking about it. One thing that I feel like people haven't talked about enough is the fact that it wasn't necessarily a dirty play. People are making it very black and white.
Okay.
Is it a dirty play or is it not a dirty play?
Yeah.
Was it on purpose or was it, by accident?
Yeah.
One thing that's kind of like a middle ground for that, and I think is probably the most accurate way for me to put it,
Yeah.
would be the fact that it wasn't a dirty play, but it was an irresponsible play.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know
I was
what
going to
mean?
say he was careless.
He was careless, and I think you've probably seen Greg Popovich's interview the next day.
Woo!
Step, lead with your foot closeout is not appropriate. It's dangerous. It's unsportsmanlike. It's just not what anybody does to anybody else. And this particular individual has a history with that kind of action.
Oh, he was steaming hot. But,
He lit him up.
yeah, for sure, to say the least. But he was kind of saying the same thing, that it's not a normal basketball closeout. If you play basketball, you know that it's kind of like muscle memory to know where you have to land to not be near or as close to the person to not draw a foul.
Right?
That's
one thing, but also on top of it, if you watch the replay, he slides his foot a couple of times. It's not like he just put his hand up. He slid it like 2 times after the fact that he got to the hand position. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
from my standpoint, it did seem careless, but at the same time, once Pop brought up all this history, it started actually playing a little bit of an influence in terms of, is he a dirty player? I don't think so. I don't think he meant to hurt the best player on the other team. But at the same time, I don't know. It just seems kind of coincidental that they were up 25 points as well, and suddenly, Golden State was able to make a 18-0 run immediately right after.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a swing point of the game for sure.
It's
Like you
huge.
said, mentally it probably got the Spurs players a little bit out of it. But again, like I mean, I don't think he did it on purpose. I just think you could call him a dirty player for being that irresponsible. You know what I mean? Like if you're playing in the NBA, everyone knows that that's not the right thing to do. So
Totally.
if he didn't do it on purpose, it was just careless.
But there's players out there that, like Bruce Bowen, who's come out and said, I've done that. Jalen Rose, who we were just talking about, has come out and said, I've done that to Kobe in the finals. All these players have publicly said. So I don't know. I'm not saying that he's a dirty player at all, but I'm just saying that was so irresponsible, but so timely that it could be, with that combination, classified as a dirty player.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I mean, if you put all of that together like that, then yeah, I guess
It just seems like the breadcrumbs are just leading to one story. You know what I mean?
Right.
So leading just one direction. And so from my standpoint, it was just I don't know. And let me ask you this. So like we were talking about for Kawhi's injury, obviously that changes the series. We just talked about how Golden State now is probably going to win, and the chances of San Antonio winning are probably much lower without their best player. But when we talk about it from the health standpoint, tell me a little bit about the types of ankle injuries you can get. What kind of injury specific to Kawhi? I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot, but what kind of injury does Kawhi have now?
Well, I mean, I think we all know by now it's an ankle sprain,
Yeah.
right? All of us know what an ankle sprain is. Probably most of us have actually experienced ankle sprains.
Yeah.
So it's probably one of the most annoying injuries you can have.
Yeah.
One thing that people probably don't know a lot about is the different degrees of ankle sprains.
Right.
Sometimes you'll see a player come back in like a week.
Right.
Sometimes you'll see a player come back in a month. And
Right.
it's like, oh, how is he out for so long? He just
Yeah.
has an ankle sprain.
Exactly.
You know? And, you know, some fans get frustrated about that. But there are actually different degrees of ankle sprains. So there's grade 1, 2, and 3 for the most part.
Oh, just like it's just similar to like every MCL or whatever.
Right.
There's like different grades.
Absolutely, because
Okay.
not every injury can be the same severity, right?
What's
So
Kawhi?
I would say,
Don't say 3.
you know what? To be honest, to be completely honest, I haven't heard enough about it to know what grade it is. I think I'd probably be able to tell you, you know, depending on how long he ends up being out for. I think his initial ankle injury was probably a grade 1, and I'll
Okay.
tell you why.
But the fact that he's gotten 3 in 7 days.
Right. It could probably be a grade 2 now.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what the grades are. The grade 1 is basically, you know, we all know that one guy who always gets his ankles sprained.
Always. I find that once you roll your ankle, it just constantly
It just
is gonna
keeps
happen.
happening, right?
Unless
And-
you like take some real time off.
Right, and that's the problem, right? Nobody really takes real time off.
Yeah, no one does.
Because all of us keep like to play.
Totally.
Right? So, and you know, you've probably done this before. You mentioned actually earlier that you did do this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just play on it. I'm going to walk it
all
off.
the time. All
right?
the time.
And so that kind of mentality towards it would indicate to me that would probably be like a grade 1 ankle sprain. The reason for that is if you have a grade 1 ankle sprain, there's a minor amount of inflammation.
Gotcha.
You know, the muscle or tendon's not necessarily torn too much. It's just a little bit of stretching and inflammation there, and obviously the pain as well. You can still walk on it.
What's the recovery time for like a grade 1?
It could be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay, cool.
Depending on how you take care of it.
Gotcha.
Then you got grade 2, which is a little more severe. They may be able to walk on it. They may need some support. And in that case, basically, the muscle fibers and the tendons are a little more torn up and a little more inflamed. And then grade
Gotcha.
3 is just a little bit more than that.
Gotcha.
And it might involve a complete tear of a tendon.
So we know in Kawhi's case, he couldn't walk off the court. He needed help to walk out into the locker room. So, I mean, that's either indicating a 2 or a 3 potentially.
Right, potentially. However, in grade 3, you wouldn't be able to really weight bear on it at all.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So he could have been grade 2, and they were just being really cautious.
If you were
and-
to guess, you'd say grade 2.
I would think it's a grade 2, especially because he injured it previously in a short period of time.
Gotcha.
So the first one may not have even really healed properly, and then when he injured it or aggravated it more a second time, probably went up to a grade 2. So I
Gotcha.
wouldn't be surprised if you know, it would be terrible for the Spurs, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was out for the rest of the series if it is a grade 2.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you're picking Golden State, right, to win it since he's out.
Well, yeah, in that case, yeah.
Even if he comes back, you're probably picking Golden State because he can't play on he'll be like 50% on that ankle.
I think Golden State is making it seem like it's easier than it was supposed to be.
Totally. But I would say that. Wait, so we'll get into the Eastern Conference afterwards too. But the Golden State, yeah, like I think they have too much firepower. It's one thing to ask for a team that has only one All-Star, like the San Antonio Spurs, which, you know, he's an amazing player. Kawhi's like hands down top 3 probably players in the league right now. He's playing like at least on both sides of the court. But without him, no other shot. You know what I mean?
Right, and he's kind of like the leader of that team too, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, guys play off of him and play off of his defensive energy and stuff. So that totally changes. And if you play basketball, again, you know that if there's somebody on the defensive end who is kind of like the vocal leader or you know, he's the guy who kind of sets the tone for defense for your team, it makes a huge difference when he's not there.
Right.
So in terms of Golden State making it seem like it's a lot easier, I think that's a huge factor that he's not in the lineup.
Right.
They have too many weapons to
Yeah.
not have a good defender covering at
Totally
least
agree.
one.
And the Spurs right now, obviously Kawhi is injured, but before that, Tony Parker also got injured. I'm not quite sure. So let me ask you this. So when you see sports injuries happen, are you like, oh, okay, that's what happened? I totally get, you know, like his whatever. I don't even know what this bone here is called, but like something happened. Like, do you totally it just clicks? You're like, oh, I wonder what's happened to him. You know, like, are you part of the like when you see an MRI or something, like, you know, like, oh, he just, you know, like someone comes out and says someone tore their ACL. You're like, oh, that guy. Like, I know what I would do here. You know what I mean? Like, is there like a connection when you actually see these sports injuries? Because it's very common in these kind of sports games.
Oh yeah, it's so common. But I think initially my first response is kind of like the fan in me. I'm like, oh man, you guys injured, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the initial thing. But then when you hear more about the injury and reading about it and stuff, you're like, oh, this is what I would do, or this
gotcha.
is something I can relate to. But I think one thing that's kind of funny is that, you hear some of these reporters and even some of the players talking about, or even other fans actually talking about some of these guys' injuries as if they kind of know exactly what they're talking about. You can
that
pick
happens
out
all the time, man.
Yeah,
people are like,
crazy.
oh, ACL, he can't come back from an ACL, in terms of Kobe.
Yeah.
I mean, he did come back. Maybe he wasn't the exact same, but still, he came back from that injury.
Yeah.
And, like, from my standpoint, a lot of reporters don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's much better that you have a doctor kind of diagnosing you and kind of telling you this is your treatment period, this is how long it's going to take you. And then if they say, you're going to be back to normal, you're going to be back to normal. I'd rather take the doctor's word than the reporters.
Yeah, exactly. And a funny example of that is kind of like when I remember when Derrick Rose got injured. Devastating. I was a huge Derrick Rose fan.
I feel like there's been too many. You have to tell me which
Oh,
one. There's
yeah,
so many injuries with Derrick Rose. Unfortunately,
like the initial one kind of was like, oh, okay, Derrick Rose got injured, and then when he kept getting injured, like every single one made people seem like obviously people started realizing that he was coming back, but that also allowed people to feel like they knew more about knee injuries, and everyone was suddenly like a knee specialist during that period of time.
Totally agree with you. So you bring up a funny point in terms of Derrick Rose being one of your favorite players, at least before the injury. Do you think he's done now? Like the amount of injuries he's gotten, like that has to take a toll where you can't recover as quickly. He's getting older. I mean, like the body must slow down, right? Like that's just my thought process on the outside looking in with no medical experience at all. But I'm just thinking from the standpoint, like this has to be like one of his last legs that he's on.
Yeah, I mean,
to perform at an elite level.
Right, absolutely. So, I mean, when people say, is Derrick Rose done, this is probably how you meant it as well, is he ever going to go back to playing at that level that we all remember?
The MVP year.
The MVP year. He was reckless. He was going to the rim. He was playing amazing. He led the Bulls to the Eastern Conference Finals that year, I think. So, in that sense, I do think that it's never going to happen again. I don't think he's ever going to be able to get back to that form.
Right.
Also, he's getting older. Even if he didn't get injured, he wasn't going to play like this for his whole career.
Right.
It's very hard to do that at that size as well. And that build. Russell Westbrook's kind of like a different beast in that regard.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah. And here's another thing. This is another thing I wanted to get into. When you asked me if this is kind of like his last leg.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah, totally no pun intended.
But it is with Russell Westbrook. He kind of has this mentality of, I don't care if I get injured again. This is a workplace hazard for me at this point. I'm just gonna go as hard as I can. Whereas Derrick Rose kind of always came back with that cautious mentality, like, if I get injured again, I'm going to be out. Am I gonna be able to play? It seems like he's in his head, for the longest period of time now, and I think that's probably in addition to his physical injuries. I think that's kind of something else that's mentally weighing him down, which is going to prevent him from performing at that level again.
I feel like for athletes that physical is one thing, but mental, you being focused mentally and being able to believe in yourself and having that confidence is obviously going to play a big role when you're coming back from an injury.
Right, it's huge, especially if you were the MVP a couple of years before. You have expectations.
Dude, he was unstoppable that year.
He was crazy.
Yeah, it was remarkable. I can see why you were such a big fan at the time. But unfortunately, it's been downhill from there just because of health. Literally, it's all because of health, right?
Absolutely.
But Russell Westbrook, for some reason, I don't know, he is something else, obviously. Is he your MVP?
I've been watching the playoffs, and I'm like, LeBron James is insane. I was a huge hater, especially when he went to the Heat, but last couple of years I've just been back on that, I guess you could say, bandwagon, because he's just unstoppable. And
see this guy right here?
Right there. You know what I mean? I saw that and I was just like, I knew you were a fan from the beginning.
Oh, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, you were a huge fan. So yeah, I'm kind of like I guess guilty of that, where I've kind of forgot. Unfortunately, I think I've kind of forgotten about how great some of these guys perform in the regular season, because it's kind of overshadowed by the fact that these guys, like LeBron James, for example, is performing continuously at a good level, at a higher level when the stakes are even higher. Yeah. So in a way, you could make the argument that he should be the most valuable player, but again, the MVP award is for the regular season, so I don't know if that's necessarily fair to guys like Russell Westbrook, who had an amazing year.
Fair enough. Okay, so explain to me this. This is what I don't understand. Because you brought up LeBron James, just explain to me this, how a guy of the amount of minutes he's played has been able to keep himself in the shape that he's in and has been able to stay as healthy as he's been able to stay. Because like that's the number one thing that's going for LeBron, in my opinion, is that, I think this, knock on wood, he's been able to stay healthy for the 14 years that he's been in the league. And he probably has, I'm confident, he has the most number of minutes for any player in their first 14 seasons.
Right, I think you're absolutely accurate on that fact. I think I read that too, that he and I think this year he was number 1 in minutes as well.
Oh yeah, he's crushing it in minutes.
Yeah, it was like him and Lowry or something.
Yeah, it's him. Lowry's number 2.
Number 2, yeah. Unfortunately for us, it kind of went the other way.
Yeah, I know. For us, see, that's what I mean. Like the mere human, like,
right.
What do you think he's doing in terms of being able to, because I've seen like random videos, uninterrupted videos and stuff that he puts out where he's like sleeping in a tube, where it's like, like a chamber of some kind that he goes to sleep in, takes a nap in, comes out recovered or something. What do you think he's doing? What kind, like, how is he able to keep himself in? That's like the $1 million question, right? Like for any athlete, like how do I keep myself healthy and able to perform at like the most elite level possible? That's like every athlete wants to know.
Right, that's a great question. And I think a lot of what LeBron James, I think actually all of what is keeping him healthy is the fact that he invests not only the time and the effort and the will, but also the money to go and, I mean, I guess money's not really a problem for him.
It's not really a problem at all.
But he's investing that time of his schedule instead of going in the off season and enjoying, his months off. He's taking time working with the appropriate personnel to keep his body in good shape. And when I say that, I mean I don't only mean like personal trainers and coaches for shooting and handling and weight trainers and stuff, but I also mean like dietitians and doctors and guys who are going to continue to help him keep his body in that shape. He's playing like he's like 19 right now.
I don't understand. He's crazy. 32. It doesn't seem like he's 32.
It's nuts. He's in, like you said, he's in his 14th year. He's played so many minutes. He seems
played
like
so many minutes, not only in the NBA, but he had seasons where he was playing for Team USA as well. Like after a championship, he would go play for Team USA.
Yeah, and long playoff runs and
every single time.
Yeah, and he's probably gonna play. He could play till he's. I mean, he could play
realistically at the rate that he's going. He could
play till 40.
Yeah,
I would say he could play till 40.
Yeah, I think he has solid at the same level 5 more years.
Right.
At this
easily.
level. Yeah, right.
It would be crazy that if he could play in the NBA when his son is.
Oh, that'd be crazy. He said that publicly. Like,
yeah, he did,
that's a goal of mine that I want to be able to play with my. That would be insane, right? To see that.
That would be crazy.
I don't know how a player so from my standpoint, it's like, okay, like you have this superhuman of some kind that's been able to stay healthy after all these years, and then you have other players like is it just biology? Is it genetics of why people get injured? Is it just luck? Like what is it? Why do you think like a guy like LeBron is able to stay as healthy as he has, and a guy like, let's say, Derrick Rose has been just gotten the worst, shittiest luck possible, and has just like season after season just inherited one of the biggest injuries every time to his either his knees or something else? Like you're just constantly hearing that about Derrick Rose. Do you think Derrick Rose doesn't prepare the same way, or what do you think it is?
I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, I think if you're a more athletic person, in terms of like the way you take care of yourself and perform, has something to do with the way you perform on the court or on the field. Totally. So I think definitely the approach to training might be a little bit different between LeBron James and a guy like Derrick Rose or somebody else.
Right.
Not taking away anything from Derrick Rose in terms of his will or desire to succeed or win.
Right.
But I think the approach to training is definitely different. But this is something I tell people all the time. I think LeBron James is an absolute freak of nature.
He's a beast.
You're not supposed to be that tall and that strong and fast at the same time, like you said.
Healthy, anyways.
That healthy, exactly. Like it's crazy. We've never seen an athlete like this ever.
No.
You know what I mean? He could. I was talking about this the other day with one of my buddies as well. If he quit the NBA right now and said, I'm declaring for the NBA draft, all 30 teams would be signing up to
100%.
sign him. And he could play any position.
Yeah.
He could play any position.
Totally.
Yeah. He's a beast. So I think he's kind of being blessed in a way with great genetics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he combined that with a sport that he could succeed in with that, for a long duration.
Totally.
And he's coupled that also with the fact that he's able to take care of himself. Whether
preparation, work ethic, he's put that all in, and he's like,
put it all in.
Yeah, and clearly, like, it's one thing to obviously work out as much as you are to keep yourself in shape and, you know, do the right stretches and stuff, but also like his diet and stuff. Like he's maintaining that, and he's being able to, like, he's dedicated to, like, he's got probably, I don't know how many chefs, but I bet you he has like a ton of chefs that are like preparing the right meals that have the right calories, exactly what he wants to do. There was a not rumor, but he was on that paleo diet a couple of years ago where he lost like 15 pounds because he wanted to like lighten the load on his knees. I mean, I think those are the reasons why he's been able to keep himself at that elite level. That's just my perspective of it.
Absolutely, I think that's the main reason. If you look at guys like, I see you have a Kobe Bryant poster there too, and he's a great player also, and other great players that have, even Michael Jordan. When they get to their 30s, their game kind of changes a little bit.
Totally.
Jordan did it, Kobe did it.
Yep.
It turns more into like footwork and focusing on shooting, and then start to develop a three-pointer. LeBron James is still playing the same way he played since he stepped on an NBA floor. He's running the floor.
Changed.
He's throwing down dunks like he's like 21.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's playing like he's still young, and I think, like you said, the reason for that is because of the way he takes care of his body.
So if I'm interpreting this correctly, you're picking Golden State to come from one end on the Western Conference, and you're picking Cleveland. No surprise here. Who are you picking to win the championship, and in how many games?
That's a tough one because
that is a very tough one.
Right. Well, first of all,
the only match we've been waiting for, like the only matchup we've been waiting for the entire playoffs. To be quite honest, it's kind of inevitable.
Exactly. I mean, it's gonna come down to that. I think everyone knows that.
Yep.
So it's funny that the whole regular season had to pass, and it was just like for nothing because we're gonna have to see the same thing. But everyone wants that. Like everyone wants to watch that.
This is gonna be the first time in NBA history that the same teams come 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row.
Yeah.
Right. So, and people think that that's like bad for the NBA, but NBA ratings were actually higher progressively each year that this happened.
I would so much rather just skip through the postseason and everything until the NBA Finals. I don't even want to watch the regular season anymore. Yeah. Just keep matching these guys up constantly. Like these are the only competitive games left. Like I think this goes. I'll let you decide and then I'll let you know what I'm thinking.
In terms of who's
gonna win and how many games.
Well, first of all, I think it's gonna be either 6 or 7 games.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be an easy series for either teams.
Fair.
Just because Golden State has too much talent and LeBron James is on Cleveland, and they have good role players too. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's gonna be any shorter of a series than 6 or 7 games.
Yep.
In terms of who's gonna win, I think if Golden State can play the way they can play, right? And I guess we assume that Cleveland plays the way they can play. Mm-hmm. I think on that end, it's going to be Golden State because they have too much firepower. They have too many options. That you can't like, no one's ever going to be not left open. And when you have a team where, you know, someone's left open and it's not somebody who's like a scrub who you're okay to take that shot. I'm okay with him taking that shot. And that person's like Kevin Durant or Draymond Green or Andre Iguodala or Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. Like, they have too many weapons.
Yeah.
Who are you gonna how many of the guys can you stop? You don't have that many stoppers on your team if you're Cleveland.
Right.
So, but I do think it would be a great story if LeBron James was able to win with the Cleveland Cavaliers, because it would kind of just add to his. I think it would be great for his legacy. Do
you think if he does? So I'm picking Cleveland to win again in 7 games because I give all the respect to Golden State. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park at all. But again, I'm a LeBron fan, so there's partial bias here. I'll be honest. But in terms of just if LeBron James is able to capture this championship, so he has a 73-9 team that he's beaten. He has a team that he's beaten with the 2 last MVPs. Right? Until this year, at least. The 2 last MVPs. Do you think he gets to a point where now you're like saying he's Jordan, best player in the league, best player in NBA history, that type of thing? Or are you at that stage yet, or no?
I think he's knocking on the door.
Yeah.
For sure. I've always thought that he was good enough to be able to be in that conversation.
Right.
A lot of people think that he's not even able to be in that conversation with Michael Jordan because they're stuck on that like Michael Jordan nostalgia, which, you know, I love Jordan too.
Yeah, but of course.
At the same time, I think now with what he's been doing in the playoffs, 7 straight finals appearances.
Exactly.
It's crazy. So, I mean, yeah, I think he's definitely knocking on the door, and if he is able to win a championship this year against this team, and combine that with the fact that he won against a 73-win team last year and overcame a 3-1 series deficit in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, of course.
That's the biggest moment when you're down 3-1, and that's the biggest moment of the NBA Finals. So I think he's coming very close to into the argument of this could be the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Not only that, but he also on paper has more. He's gonna have more than everything.
He's gonna have more than everyone in everything. Like he's gonna finish probably top 5 in every category possible. Like steals, not steals, but like assists, rebounds. He's gonna finish top 5, right? The way that he's going right now.
Right, and not only. I think the funniest thing about all of this whole, when people start talking about stats and everything, is that everyone's like, oh, LeBron has a stacked team. He has great role players.
Yeah.
Yes, he has some good role players on his team. I'm not gonna argue that. But you need those types of players to win a championship.
Totally.
If somebody can name me a team who, other than the Detroit Pistons in 2004, if somebody can name me a team that didn't have like a superstar and a couple of
combination of stars,
right? Who's won an NBA championship like that? And secondly, if you're telling me he has role players, that's fine. But if he led in every single category, in every single game of the NBA Finals last year on both teams. He's still better than everybody else, despite the fact that he has role players.
I don't even think you can argue that.
Right.
Like the proof is right there in front of you. It's
right
just
there.
the people who want to choose to cover their eyes and just ignore it.
Yeah.
But the proof is already there.
Right. So I mean, if he's doing all of that and still winning, and doing it at a great efficiency, may I add, that's how can you say that he's?
Let me ask you this: What would you do to have? What would you give if you had the opportunity to work out with LeBron, like from let's say off season? He's like, hey Yasser, I want you to come up to Cleveland or come down to Cleveland for like a week and just work out and like help me get into my health regimen or something like that.
I'd be like, what's so special about Cleveland?
What?
I've never heard of anyone going on vacation in Cleveland. I'd probably tell
the Chicago Bulls fan talking right there.
No, I mean that would be cool, man. That would be awesome. I think I'd probably act like a little schoolgirl or something if LeBron James ever rang my phone to ask me for some healthcare advice. But yeah, that would be pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's very cool, man. So let our listeners know how they can find out more about Medisource. Medisource Sports obviously is the full name. Where they can go, what Instagram they can follow, all that stuff.
All right, so we have a website, obviously, www.medisrc.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Medisource Sports. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. Nice. Twitter, it's not as active as the Instagram. Usually we like to post pictures of the events that we're working at.
Yeah.
So Instagram is where you can find us at Medisource Sports.
Gotcha.
We'll basically be posting stuff throughout the week. During all the different leagues and tournaments and stuff that we've been at, so people can kind of tune in. If you're in the basketball community, you can check in and see what kind of different events are going on as well, because we're more than likely going to be working at a lot of them.
Yeah.
And also one thing that we kind of started up, which is kind of helpful for even amateur athletes like yourself.
Yeah.
Every Monday we come out with a post called Medisource Mondays.
Oh, cool.
So every Monday we focus on a different sports injury.
Nice.
For example, we've done ankle sprains, meniscal injuries, ACL tears, back injuries, all sorts of different injuries, and we just basically have a little blurb about what the injury is and pictures instructing people on what kind of stretches and exercises they can do to rehab from that injury.
Amazing.
So it's kind of helpful for athletes to just look at it and be like, okay, I sprained my ankle. These are the steps I need to take to recover from this, and there's pictures and everything alongside that. So check it out on Mondays, and throughout the week we're trying to post content as well.
That's absolutely awesome. So yeah, you guys, so we'll put it up on our website as well, and our audio and video clips, and on our Instagram as well, so you guys can find out more about Yasser's company, Medisource Sports, there as well. And we thank Yasser for coming into the podcast and actually having a chat with us. This was a lot of fun. We got to talk about a little bit of basketball, and we got to talk about his company, and that, for me, that's always an inspiration. Like I said, getting to know people who've started their own thing and learning from them what worked, what didn't work. So thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate you guys. Tune in next week when we're talking more about the NBA playoffs. It'll probably be the NBA finals at that point, by the rate that we're going. So enjoy the weekend, guys, and talk to you guys soon.